I'll admit, when it comes to scary things, I'm a bit of a weenie. I enjoy things like campy horror, funny scares, and things of that nature. I don't do well with the paranormal, but I do like Halloween-themed anything. When it comes to video games, there's a few titles that have Halloween themes, but when the calendar turns to October, it's always fun to dive into a few titles that just seem to fit the spirit of the season. This year, I've gathered a few friendly souls to join me in sharing some of those games that bring on those Halloween vibes or are just fun to enjoy during the spooky season. Sit back and relax as we share some quick thoughts on video games that always bring ghoulish feelings of fun and fear every October.
It's that time of the year. Ghosts, goblins, monsters, and of course, onion rings. Hey, I'm Fernley Flynn. Yeah, that just happened. Anyways, when Wally was asking me about a game that made me think of Halloween, I immediately thought of Monster Party, which is a delightfully quirky horror game on the NES. Our story begins as Mark meets an alien named Bert. They fuse together and battle monsters with blunt force trauma doled out by a baseball bat. You get to play as both Mark and Bert during the adventure. The goal is to work your way through each level, collect question marks, and find a key to advance to the next level. Parts of the game are very spooky for a Nintendo game, and even show some 8-bit gore. The game really shines in its unique creature and boss designs. Some are terrifying, and some are hilarious. My favorite of them all, if you couldn't tell, is the onion ring. Overall, this is a delightful game that deserves a play during the Halloween season. It is a memorable experience, to be sure. Thanks, Wally, for letting me gush about one of my favorite NES games. It was a wiggling good time.
Quentin Tarantino, writer, director, actor, made his way onto the Hollywood scene with the acclaimed 1992 Reservoir Dogs.
As K-Billy's super sounds of the 70s weekend just keeps on trucking.
When a simple jewelry heist goes horribly wrong, the surviving criminals begin to suspect that one of them is a police informant. It also contains the now famous scene of Man in Trunk.
Maybe our boy in blue here can answer some of these questions.
Which I am 100% sure was recreated in one of the scariest, funniest, and wildest Sega Genesis games I have ever played. It's The Haunting, starring Poltergeist. Released in 1993 by Electronic Arts, The Haunting tasks you taking control of a ghost named Poltergeist. The player must bring various household items to life in order to frighten a family away from their home. Frightening the family is where the fun is in The Haunting. Scattered around the home are frightums, little blips of light on certain objects or spots of the house, allowing you to possess them and scare the damn Sardini family out of their home. The creepy stuff started with the advertising I'd see in gaming magazines like EGM and GamePro. A picture depicting a hungry couch with teeth ready to devour any unsuspecting person who happened to walk by. Aliens, devil paintings, and bleeding kitchen tables are just a few of the absolutely terrifying, pixelated imagery that still haunts my memory today. If you've never heard me rant about this game, you are in for a treat that only 90s punk hairstyles can afford.
Hi, Hi, I'm D-Pad Danny, and to me, no game better says Halloween than Zombies Ate My Neighbors for the Super Nintendo.
Aw yeah, the classic LucasArts top-down run-and-gun game that's slam-packed with the quirkiest of spookality. The world has gone mad. Everything is on the loose. You've taken it upon yourself to solve the problem and rescue all the innocent bystanders who are obviously oblivious to their surroundings. Like, no, yeah, sure, everything's going to hell around you and you're looking for a traveler's kiosk. Also, whose kid is this? Real safe to let your toddler run around unsupervised. He's clearly in danger and we need to protect him at all Oh god, kill it with fire! All the visuals are nice and cartoony, a style that works really well for the game. I love the music too. It's got a zany feel with some creepy undertones. It's hard to explain, but if you listen to it, you'll get what I mean. There are a ton of different tools and weapons to use in dispatching enemies. Your squirt gun full of holy water is your main weapon, but you can also get cutlery and plates, tomatoes, footballs, cans of soda that do area damage, and the invaluable bazooka that lets you blow through doors and walls. You about need this in Stage 4, Chainsaw Hedge Maze Mayhem, a serious stopping point for me when I was younger. These days I'm a little quicker on my feet. Run away! I usually play single player, but if you can get a friend to join in, it can be even more fun. I really feel like this is one of the best multiplayer offerings on the Super Nintendo. Either way, you can't go wrong with Zombies Ate My Neighbors. It's fun all year round, but makes an exceptional choice to pop in during the witching season.
Alright, so when we think about games that put us in a spooky mood, how can you not go with the original Resident Evil? I mean, honestly, it's the one that started it all. It made survival horror really a thing for most of us. And who doesn't remember that zombie turning around for the first time when you were a kid?
That memory, and I don't care who you are, unless you knew about it, the Cerberus busting through the window was one of the best jump scares of really any generation, and everyone still remembers it. The game has plenty of problems, some goofy one-liners, but it adds to that horror movie charm, and it really is just a perfect throwback to horror, and all modern horror games owe it to Resident Evil.
And plus, we all have that friend who couldn't play it, so Brian and I were both that guy who had to sit down and play it for everyone else as they sat around and watched. So they got the scares while we got the immersion.
Yeah, great game.
When it comes to the season of spookiness, I like to partake in a video game or two to settle into the macabre spirit. With that said, I'm also the last person who's going to be reaching for anything chock full of jump scares or violent horror, and I tend to opt for things that are a little less intense. One of my favorite go-tos is Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti for the Famicom. It provides the well-known challenge of the 8-bit generation and also serves as a perfect homage to many great horror films and their characters throughout the years. You play as a recently resurrected Rick who returns to the land of the living just in time to see his girlfriend Jennifer plucked away by the Pumpkin King, and you set out to rescue her with your trusty axe in hand. Rather than being a beat-em-up style game like the other Splatterhouse entries, this one hinges entirely on platforming and short-range combat. What I like about this title in particular are its atmospheric music and grim surroundings. You trudge through rundown buildings complete with haunted furniture, a cemetery, and a church, to name a few. These backdrops are smattered with horror movie throwbacks, including characters and their choice weapons, as well as many unsettling generic monsters. I appreciate that this game doesn't rely on a ton of blood and guts to hold these themes together, and it acts as a playful nod to the horror genre in general. As far as I'm concerned, it has everything you need to get the hairs on the back of your neck to stand up without also needing to reach for the light switch or the barf bag. For any lovers of horror movies and media, Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti will not only scratch that spooky game itch, but it will also put the depths of your own horror trivia knowledge to the test. Let us know how many references you can spot in the comment section.
Alright, let's talk about Terror Tracks, Track of the Vampire. Now, this one was not an easy title to track down. My first, and until recently only memory of this game, was watching it played in a friend's basement just one time. But that one time was enough to burn it into my memory. So much so that I still wanted to check out the game over 20 years later. Terror Tracks is an FMV title that puts you in charge of operatives working for an organization called TRACS. Trace, research, analyze, and exterminate. These agents are experts on the undead, hand-to-hand combat, weapons, and covert operations. Well, mostly. But the point is, they can do just about anything. Except make decisions for themselves. That is going to be your job. You'll be following each agent through a series of FMV cutscenes as they help keep the city safe from the undead that roam the night. You'll do this by either pressing A or B. Okay, at a glance, your role in this does seem pretty limited, yes. But trust me, you do not want these agents making decisions for themselves. Your choices can lead to more clues to help in your investigation, take you to various locations around the city, or lead you to encounters with various characters and, of course, vampires. The branching paths can lead to some wildly different outcomes for your agents. More than I was expecting for an obscure mid-90s FMV title. And on your first playthrough of each scenario, there is no obvious choice. Every time I thought I was doing the sensible thing,
Officer 1, dead.
Yeah, you'll need to figure things out through trial and error for the most part, but the presentation makes the experience worth coming back to. It can get pretty gruesome too. The real downside to Terror Tracks is that it's not the easiest game to come by these days. Hell, I had to find a way to run Windows 3.1 on my Windows 10 PC just to have a way to play this game again. It's certainly a task, but if you're willing to put in the time and have a fondness for FMV games and B horror flicks, I can't recommend this game enough. Hey, it's Motaro! Terror Tracks actually scared me as a kid. Maybe it'll scare you too.
Much as Nightmare on Elm Street used to creep me out when I was a kid, it wasn't just always scary games that used to remind me of Halloween. Games like Solstice used to always give me a bit of a spooky vibe as well. Sure, I was younger and impressionable, but that creep factor was always heightened. In recent years, I had the pleasure of experiencing Playdead's Limbo, a puzzle platformer that is wonderfully displayed in black and white, almost as if playing in a world of shadows. Your goal is to find your sister, and in doing so, have to navigate through a series of death traps and puzzles in order to progress. The game is completely void of music and is subtle on sound effects, utilizing them only to really express death scenes. And that's where the creepy uneasiness comes into play. You will die in Limbo many, many times. As you try and solve each puzzle, you will slowly learn the correct strategy in progressing to the next obstacle. But it's the way in which you die, slowly and morbidly, that really gives this game a sense of uneasiness. It's physics-based, so watching your body and limbs be drained of life as you close your eyes and you enter the afterlife, it's creepy and uneasy. It's a wonderful game, but if death scenes bother you, then you may want to steer clear of this one. There you have it, a handful of games that are either creepy and uneasy or just bring on the fun feelings of the season. Rest assured that every October there's a video game waiting to help celebrate the season with you. Feel free to share your favorite seasonal gaming memories and which titles you'd recommend to others looking to share in on some spooks and scares. Thanks for watching, everyone, and happy Halloween.